With me, I have Richard Brunig, the founder of Priority and inventor of the Priority products, all based on microbiology to support immune health in animals and now humans. I realize there are many new participants on this call that haven't been on previous conference calls, and with that in mind, I'm going to start out with some background questions. Richard, good morning.
Good morning, Roxanne, and good morning to everyone on the call. We have not only national but international guests on today as well.
Great. So to lead off the discussion, let's talk a little bit about Somaya Life and how that came to be. How did this all come about? Maybe take us back to the beginning.
Oh, wow, there's a lot of history. Really, as a young boy, I had a great love for cows and and a love for animal breeding, and that led to a quest to a dairy north of where I grew up from, about 40 minutes, that had a dream and asked me to fulfill that dream, which was he wanted to be one of the best purebred producers in the nation, and within a short period of time that was achieved. But in that 20-year tenure, there was a lot of learning that occurred, and animals teach us a lot. Those of you who are farmers on this call know that cows will teach you a lot. If we can figure out what they're telling us, we can actually become an inventor on the farm. And through that, there was several things that happened on the farm that at the time looked very dramatic. And you know, I believe every human walking the earth has had a dramatic time. And at the time, we don't realize that those are great teaching events for us. And one in particular was a misformulation of feed that was fed that really harmed the cows significantly. And then came a lot of learning with health issues and death losses. Nutrition came, you know, I was an animal breeder. But then came nutrition and the study of nutrition and the study of trace minerals. And then I was always blessed that someone would walk in at the perfect time and say that I'm here to help you. And that was a gentleman that was a PhD microbiologist and said, I heard of you, I know this dairy, and I'm here to help you. And the first thought was, and this goes back 30 some years, first thought was, as a farmer, I don't need a microbiologist. But as he explained to me that everything in life has to do with microbiology, whether it's the soil and the growth of plants, whether it's in animals and the digestive tract, and it's very similar to humans. And in humans, it's the digestive tract that is the key to really all life and all organ functions. So in the study of microbiology, there is literally trillions of organisms on the face of the earth that have to be sorted through, and over the course of the 10 years on the farm trying to figure things out, a product or a company was launched 21 years ago.
So when you say organisms, you're talking about microbiology?
Yes, microbiology. When you talk, that's a great question, because microbiology really comes in two forms. It comes in the good guys and the bad guys. Right now, there's a lot of chatter about the bad guys. A virus is a bad guy or a pathogen, and there's bacteria that are also bad. But on the other side, there are very what's called beneficial bacteria, very powerful in what they could do.
That's an interesting note to make, because so much of what we hear is about killing bacteria. We want to eliminate them. We want to sanitize everything, wash your hands constantly. And you're saying that there's actually good guys.
very much so, and that is not spoke of very much. But there is an opposite field of good guys that can really do some very powerful functions in the gut of animals and humans.
Okay. So in your learning about microbiology, how did you take that knowledge then and apply it to the farm?
Well, it's really quite involved because it's a study of all of these organisms, and they come in families, so to speak. The one that many know about is Lactobacillus acidophilus. That's a genus and species, or simply a family, and within that family, there is literally trillions of organisms within that family. So if you look at Lactobacillus acidophilus, that might be like Americans, and there is millions of Americans, but we want to find the key human being, the key bacteria that can do a very powerful task in the digestive tract.
We want to find the Richard Brunig.
Well, in essence, you want to find the black donut. The black donut is the key of all these organisms that can do this task really, really well.
Okay, so back to the farm. You said a microbiologist showed up, and your feeling was, I don't need a microbiologist, I'm a farmer. Has that thinking shifted over the years where people understand the importance of microbiology?
Tremendously. We have a significant following of farmers, and I have a great deal of respect for them. Their work is very, very hard, and there's a lot of moving parts on the farm. And the key is, and what I've learned with my own experience, is that keeping the gut healthy is the key. It's the key, and it's all through microbiology. And when we learn the organisms that we are putting in, and there's bad guys coming in at the same time in both animals and humans, if the digestive tract is functioning correctly, the orderly fashion, or the sergeant of arms in the body, which is the immune system, has the ability to keep things in order.
Yep, I think I've heard quite a bit in the news actually where you hear the comment that a lot of your immune system is found along the digestive tract. So that's probably what you're referencing.
Yes, 85% of immunity comes from the digestive tract. There's lymph nodes involved as well, but the primarily immunity happens on the lower GI.
Okay, so that's the thinking then. If you've got that healthy gut, then your immune system is going to be healthy as well.
Correct, that's correct.
Okay. So with this in mind, probably was considered 20 years ago a little more unconventional way of thinking, contrarian to what was the norm. And have you gotten any pushback with this idea?
Tremendous pushback. Tremendous pushback. And whenever in life you go outside of the norm, there is significant pushback, and a lot of negative things are said. And however, our mission statement is farm by farm, and it's literally been done that way, where one farm is 2, and then 2 is 4, and they really support what we do. And it's a win-win. They have healthier cows. Their diets that they are using are much cheaper for them. We do a lot of teaching, and we teach them about what's going on, so they're a part of the team. That's very important, is to have the education there, and then they're very comfortable with what's going on.
So this is truly grassroots.
Truly grassroots. It's all evolved, started on the farm. It's continued on the farm level. It's gaining the support from each individual producer across the country, and now internationally as well. Okay.
So your main experience is dairy cows. You've been working a lot with animals. Any similarity then between what you're doing with animals to soils and even humans?
They're all interconnected. surprisingly, they are very similar and they're all interconnected. Everything in life needs energy. I think Einstein discovered that many, many years ago. All life needs energy, number one. And then it needs, for life in the soil, you're balancing energy and proteins, and that's what makes plants grow. But it's balancing the energy and protein for the microbial population or the bacteria in the soil, and then they make something that's beneficial for the plants to grow, send it up through the roots. And it's the same for human beings, is that and animals, the digestive tract is filled with microorganisms. Those microorganisms, they take the food that we eat and they use that food we eat as their food. And their end product or their waste is then food for the body.
It sounds like a great system. Our health being dependent on food for our body and such, but why are things so off track? Why are we getting so sick? Is there something we're doing?
Well, I'm going to start on the animal side because the animals are quite sick as well, and they have a lot of issues with acidosis, and acidosis would be similar to gout in humans or acid reflux. And it's in animals that everything that we feed them is so available. If you take a pound of feed, everything that in that pound is so much more available to be used to the animal, and the organisms aren't there to use it.
So by available, you mean digestible or?
Yes, you could use that same word, digestible, available. They really interchange and mean the same thing. And humans, the same thing. We've gone from gardens to non-processed or processed food, and so what we eat is very, very available and digestible.
Okay, so that's one of the problems that lead to the immune health issues.
Well, that's I'm gonna really pose that back in the presence of the virus that we're facing today. It's really become aware that our immune systems are not working. The question is, why doesn't our immune system work properly? Because the immune system in every body was placed there as a very, very powerful sergeant of arms, and with that, an ability to fix or correct and regulate what's coming in the body. So the question is, why are immune systems so challenged today? And there's increased rates significantly on hyperimmune, which is allergies, and there is a load of autoimmune disorders that are increasing at a rapid rate in the last several years. And the question is, why is that happening? So when there's an autoimmune disorder, that means that the immune system doesn't have a sergeant of arms anymore. It doesn't have a regulator, and anything then can come in the body and take over the body.
Okay, so under a challenge like that, I believe a lot of people's first response would be to possibly run to a drugstore, run to a doctor, get a prescription, get a drug. Is there an alternative to that?
Well, that's a very good description of the past, where I believe we've been trained that we need a general doctor. That's a requirement in life, and when we can do anything we want with our bodies, because if we go to a doctor, the doctor will give us another chemical or a vaccine, and we'll be good to go again. I believe we're evolving rather rapidly, that it may be those chemicals are a significant point of why our immune systems do not work. It's said that there's a very high population, and more so in America than any other country, that are on chemicals on a daily basis. So when you look at the numbers, we're one of the leading countries in death loss to this virus.
So really, the drug that we're reaching for is ultimately doing more harm than good?
The immune system has to figure out a way to manage that chemical. That chemical that's taken in that has saved us then has to find a way to be dispelled from the body. And that chemical is indiscriminatorily killing the good and the bad. It doesn't select which it takes. So now you hear many times a doctor will say, go find yourself a good probiotic, because they're realizing that when we take in chemicals, we then have more problems. Our stools are not right. We have gut aches, and it leads to a lot of other disorders in the body. And it's only recently they're starting to say, hey, maybe you should look for something to put your gut back on track.
Okay, so that's a good description of what happens to us when we're taking a drug or a chemical. What about vaccines? What is the mode of action there, and how would that differ?
Well, a vaccine, let's start with a virus. A virus is a dead cell. And a vaccine, what is done there is they're looking for the antigen of that virus. And the antigen is, in general, is a piece of the DNA or a piece of the virus. And that's what's called an antigen. And they're going to inject that into the body in hopes that the immune system is healthy enough to recognize the piece of that virus and then build antibodies from the immune system to defend the body from this virus.
So if the body is having an immune challenge, it's likely that virus then, or that antigen, could flourish and cause more problems.
That is correct. And you see that a lot of times with the flu vaccines. Many get deathly sick from it. Some go through it quite well, and others do not. And it's those that have a challenged immune system, the antigen, the immune system, the antigen within that vaccine, the immune system really does takes it in as being normal, rather than building antibodies against it.
And that's unfortunate, because I'm assuming that a lot of people looking for that flu vaccine are likely the ones who have immune challenges, and they're looking to protect themselves, and therefore having issues because of it, additional issues.
That is correct. I think that, when the question was asked about, doctors and going to the doctors, we need doctors. That's a part of our healthcare system. But if you think about the last several years, the resistance to antibiotics, doctors are not prescribing them anymore. And the data shows that in the last 10 years, no new antibiotics have come forth because of what's called resistance. So in the body, the body is life, and the body is made up of a microbial population that is there for digestion. So when the body takes in a chemical and takes it in under a long term on a daily basis, the organisms, the good guys, also want to stay there. And if they're being killed on a daily basis, what they do is they either change their form, and you're hearing about viruses changing their form. Well, the good guys will change their form to try and stay there. But they eventually get wiped out, but the bad guys also want to stay there. The immune system is to keep order. So when the bad guys want to stay there, they will mutate, and they, just like a virus mutates, or they will build, in essence, a wall around them so that the chemical cannot take them out. And that's what the term resistance is all about.
Is it possible to live with a virus and not have any negative effects?
Very much so. It's said that the body holds many viruses. When the virus enters the body, the immune system is very complex. So it has what's called a dendritic cell that kind of swims through the ocean of the body, and it will be always coming up in contact with the skin or the eyes or the nose or the mouth, wherever things can come in. They can come in through the skin as well, and it takes a sample of what's new that's there, And then it goes down to the colon, and it has the dendritic cell has you perceive it as a telescope, and it will take the piece of the antigen or the piece of the virus or bacteria and push it up through the colon and say, see, here's what I have. Now that you know what I have, can you instantly create some antibodies to go kill a number of these? And some are harmful. So the immune system has an order to it where these viruses can live in the body if they live under the rules of the immune system.
It's an interesting description, and I guess I've never thought of the colon. It's kind of like the command center.
Well, it is. That's the colon. The lower GI is where this, largely the immunity takes place, and that's why it's so important to keep the digestive system right, and why chemicals can be very, very harmful to the body.
Okay. So with that in mind, again, I know I've mentioned it before, but we're seeing a lot of immune challenges on the rise, a lot of problems that you think in this day and age we'd have things figured out, but if anything, we're getting sicker as a population. And what would you attribute that to?
Wow. Over time, going back to your previous question, society was geared to having a lot of doctor visits, and society went through a time that all bacteria are bad. We need antiseptics. We need hand wipes. We need to clean the surfaces of our counters. We need to keep our hands disinfected at all times. And that's really not a good thing, because the immune system then never is challenged with anything, and it's a system that wants to be challenged on a daily basis to keep order. So, in other words, those chemicals can be harmful also, because as we put those chemicals on our hands continuously in fear, the body has to figure out how to handle those chemicals, because they go through the skin as well. Contrary, back many years ago, babies were born, they went out with their parents and worked in the garden, they ate the soil, licked their fingers, and today it's all about being clean, and I believe we have not presented our immune systems with the organisms, because the good guys and the bad guys, they're coming from the soil. And so immunity really has not taken place.
So by essentially placing yourself in a sanitary bubble, you're doing more harm than good to your immune system.
That's correct. And in fact, sheltering in place and staying indoors is really suppressing the immune system, because the immune system doesn't have any challenge, and when you go out, then it's going to be overwhelmed with the challenges that it faces, and especially right now with the sun being out, the light and the sun provides a lot of nutrients and a lot of vitamin D to support immune health.
Interesting. Well, let's talk a little bit about some solutions. We know the challenges to the immune system. It sounds like the solution is having the right microflora in the digestive tract. I know we refer to that internally here as your microbiome. I think that's a pretty well accepted term. So, maybe we could talk a little bit about our Somaya Life, which does contain a lot of those bacteria strains that the microbiome needs to really do its job. Can you maybe take us through a little bit about that product?
Yes, this was, it started back in 2007, and on the animal side, stepping back, we have technology that through microbiology that prevents acidosis in animals, and we're always looking for the black donut, the unique organism, and in 2007, gold spike powder was presented. If you're following through on the website, that first slide shows the progression. That was presented as two groups of organisms. One group that is good guys that will turn on what's called bacteriocins or chemicals, and it's asked to turn it on by other organisms in the body, and they're all in essence talking to one another. There is a symbiosis of organisms within the gut and cells, and they're all working together. Um, think about it as a business where you have manufacturing and you have accounting. If they're not talking to one another, the manufacturing will either not have enough product or they'll have way too much inventory, and in both cases, the company doesn't succeed.
Okay.
And it's the same thing in the human body. Is that so? Back to these two categories. There's a group of organisms that will seek only the bad guys. When the sergeant of arms says, turn on your chemicals, it will only take out the bad guys and leave the good guys alone.
Okay, so my question was going to be, when you're talking about these bacteria-making chemicals, isn't that like an antibiotic?
In terms of the word chemical, yes. They're called, it's bacteriocins, so they are chemical-like. However, they only target the bad guys.
Where an antibiotic is more like a nuclear bomb.
Correct.
It kills everything.
It kills everything, correct. And when instructed to, and these chemicals, when instructed to, turn on, take out, and they're not taking out all of them, they take out enough so that the body can come back to order again. So it'd be very similar to a meeting where two people are talking to one another and disrupting the meeting. The sergeant of arms only has to take out one of them, and the room comes back into order again. It doesn't need to take them all out. So your point is very good, one about the nuclear bomb and chemicals. It takes out everything, the good and the bad, and the immune system then has to figure out how to put itself back on track again.
So when we say that this product supports the immune system, we're really saying that it's keeping that balance.
It's keeping it in balance, and there is a symbiosis, meaning that the organisms are talking to the cells, and each one of them are working together, trying to keep the body in order, and it's very, very powerful. God put it there as the defense mechanism for every body, and the question is, why doesn't it work very well?
That's fascinating to think of a whole communication network going on within the body, and I'm wondering, do you think many people understand that? Like our doctors, our universities, are they teaching this?
They are not. They're not, and I believe largely because there isn't enough money in it. Where chemicals and vaccines can be patented, and there is a lot of money to be made there. Microbiology, on the other side of it, is, again, it's the key to life, and it's very, very powerful if again, you can find that black donut.
It's a shame to think that our health and well-being is dependent on money.
Unfortunately, that is true. Unfortunately, that is true. And this virus, I believe, is going to bring that all awareness forth. And, you know, in news media, you see the word, we're all together. And in essence, the virus wants to stay here as well. So all together to me means unity. And the virus wants to be a part of unity as well. It really doesn't want to kill the host, but it's coming into the body in a very, very violent fashion, where it sends out a tremendous amount of inflammation. They call it cytokine storm. So it's telling the T cells to turn on tremendous inflammation. That's why it hits the lungs. But the virus, so the immune system is supposed to recognize that virus and do the opposite. It's supposed to be able to defend itself. So the question again is, why isn't the immune system doing that?
Mm-hmm. So getting back to the bacteria strains that we have, I know we talked a little bit about the bacteria sins that are created. Can you tell us a little bit more about the mode of action of the Somaya Life?
Yes. So if you're looking at the website, Gold Spike has two categories. It had the ones that kill the pathogens, the good guys that kill the bad guys, and a key organism, which we call 1E1. That's a very good communicator. In technical, it's called modulation, or communicator in simple, or quarterback. So it will tell the immune system or the T cells how to function and what to do. So back to the business again, you need a director. If you have the accounting and you have manufacturing, there has to be a director that tells the manufacturing, now you need to produce more product. You have too much product produced, you need to back off. And the immune system is very much the same way. So this organism is very good at communicating with the T cells of the body. But the fast forward, we have added, you see Gold Spike H, we added digestive organisms because the gut really is also a part of the GI tract. And when the gut is functioning correctly, the immune system also has a better chance at coming back to life and functioning correctly. And Somaya Life is very recent. We have added a fourth category. This organism loves acid. And when you hear the word lactic acid, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because it's part of the carbohydrate model or part of how carbohydrates digest. Acid is made by bacteria.
I feel a lot of what we hear in the advertising is how to eliminate acid, get rid of it, we don't want it. You're saying it's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a good thing. The organism, that's the last part of the digestion process, and there's another organism that eats that acid as food and makes a true energy source that the body can use. So you do your point, by squelching or killing the acid is not a good thing.
Okay.
It all has to do with microbiology.
Okay, it's just getting it turned over to something that the body can use.
Correct.
Good. Somaya Life, it's called an anthrobiotic. Can you describe or can you explain to us what that term means?
An anthrobiotic is the first of its kind, and it's a category that's been created because each organism that is provided has a specific task in digestion, where in a probiotic, I don't like using that word.
I was going to say, we usually don't say that word here.
Yes, we don't, but to help the audience here today is they're just generally putting organisms in a bottle. And we find when they're specifically identified for a specific function in the digestion process, they can be very, very powerful. So if you Google anthrobiotic, you'll find the definition there of what an anthrobiotic is, but it's specifically organisms that do a specific task in the gut.
Okay, so again, getting back to the P word, the probiotic, you're saying those don't necessarily have a specific function, it's just throwing some strains together and...
Well, throwing organisms together, and these organisms are life, and every form of life needs a specific surrounding to survive. So it's important that they are taken care of. You'll see that they need to be refrigerated. They're not that fragile that you can't take some with you for 7 days or 10 days or 2 weeks on a trip. But they need to be taken care of because they're life and they've been placed in a dormant form. And it's heat and moisture when it enters the body that activates them.
Okay. One more question before we open things up. Any side effects with this product in terms of am I taking too many? Can I expect an issue?
No. These are all found in nature. There is nothing negative they can do. it's really, what we're trying to teach here is to scan your body. So back to your previous question about the medical doctors, and we're in a time that we can do anything we want because a doctor will fix it. Now we're in a time that we're lost on what to do. There's nothing negative these can do. What we're trying to teach is to scan your body or do a body scan daily. Take the normal 1 or 2 a day and do a body scan. If I don't feel quite right, then you can double or triple down, and you'll find that you feel much better even the next day.
So it's really just taking your own health, your well-being into your own hands and not relying on somebody else to tell you what you need, but really using that intuition to know yourself.
That is very well said.